The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am the host and the co-chair of webinar. My name is Sidita Hasi, and we've been here before. And I have my co-partner and the speaker today with us, Kiran Mann. We represent the Human Development and Leadership Division of American Society for Quality. This is a global division aiming to enrich the personal and also professional lives of our members and non-members across the global community. We continuously look for new speakers, so if you know anybody who is interested to speak and is familiar or can get familiar with a body of knowledge of human development and leadership, which can be found under my ASQ HD&L community site, please feel free to put them in contact with us. We will be happy to review their application. Before we begin with the webinar, we will go over some ground rules. If there is any question during the webinar, you can use the question tab. Any comments, anything like that, use the question tab. The webinar, as usual, will be about 45 minutes speech with a 15 minutes question and answer. Those who attend for 40 minutes will receive a 0.1 credit unions, which you can basically use for the ASQ certification. We will send you an email, a separate email after the webinar, and you can use that for claiming your credit. We're very delighted for today to have again coming back Kiran Mann. We did have a topic on change management and what actually is the reason for change to happen and why people resist it, though. That was a key issue in accepting and embracing change. So we heard you well, we heard your feedback. We know that we wanted to focus a little bit more today on actually what we can do about it, not just like understanding the change and the resistance itself and the causes, but also what we can do about it. And we're very happy to have Kiran accepting to come back and continue that topic. As you might have heard, some of you who attended our August webinar, Kiran Mann is a business consultant. She is the president and founder of M2M Business Solutions and Business Growth Strategies, speaker and representative of award-winning Crestcom Leadership Skills Development Program in Canada and overall the global level leadership skills. She believes that people and their mindset is key to the success of every business. Therefore, business owners and senior leadership should focus on how to successfully bring a change in their organization and strengthen talent management process internally and customer experience process externally. As a business owner and female entrepreneur, Kiran is deeply passionate about enriching the productivity and profitability of other businesses. Her goal is to work with and influence leaders at all levels of an organization's hierarchy. In her own words, leadership is fundamental in creating a positive, idyllic company culture and setting the platform for happy, productive, and fulfilled employees. What sets her apart is her ability to offer clear insights, customized solutions, and measurable outcomes that justify every investment made by a client. And we're very delighted to have her here and share her insights with us. And please, the floor is yours, Kiran. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Sadita, for such a kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm in Toronto, Canada, so it's nice, not sunny, but cloudy weather here. A little bit about me. My background was automotive manufacturing, so being there, dealt with the rigorous, challenging day routines, and preaching change. I did undergo a change of moving from a job to owning a company and correlating myself to the topics that I thought were the daily noises in every business, every customer, the companies I worked and ran, and the supply chain that I interacted with had very similar noises that need to be addressed in today's time frame. So I kind of resonated with some of these and thought I could contribute to the community and industry. So hence, focus myself in bringing a change, whether it is process and structures or bringing a change dealing with your employees, dedicating your values and mission to vision to customer experience toward your client, or whether it's talent management where we're talking about hiring and onboarding and retaining people, which seems to become a very, very hot topic for today, and hence all these things cannot be done until we have a mindset of changing, thinking how to successfully change things, and developing those skills in ourselves. We can wrap it up in leadership skills, but there are the skills that we need to know what are our strengths and what are the strengths in the people around us, and how we can overcome it to successfully changes. So that's a typical day for me, working with the different clientage in different industries. A question for you. So Sadita, if you can open the poll, would love to see who we have in our audience from people that are part of initiating change process, whether it's today or in the upcoming time frame, or who are successfully or working towards implementation the changes, or if anybody in the audience are the ones that are part of operations, and they will be experiencing a change that their company or senior management has brought in for them.
The poll is open, and as the other webinar, we do have a very active audience, which is great because that helps us shape the continuation of this webinar. So feel free to be active when you have a request to bring your input. We have about 75% already, 80. That was quick. So we'll give it another second or so. That's quite an interesting response here. So, okay, let's just close it and see and share those results with you. Okay, so we have about 61% people who will implement the change, so they are in the implementation phase, 31% who initiate, and those who will experience 8%. So it's like quite some people already see some side of the change happening as we speak.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that great response. Really kind of helps me determine what mindset you're going through, and apparently what you could be looking for. So we'll focus in perspective that you're either were part of the idea that the change is being brought up, or are in process in executing it successful in the coming time. So in today's webinar, we are going to touch a little bit very quickly on why change usually fails and why people resist. Some of these topics were touched a little bit in August webinar, but just in case we have anybody in the audience that was not part of our August, we'll do that. And then focus more over on the solutions, especially in how to overcome the resistance piece. And as always, we'll have our last 15 minutes for a Q&A where you can ask the questions, and I'll be happy to answer to the best of my ability after that. So change, 70% of the companies that actually undergo change fail. This is from a McKinsey report. I would say around 23% is the last stat I'm aware of, the companies that are actually undergoing changes. So, and out of those 23, 70% are actually failing. And why is that? When the planning is done so properly and a vision is created, yet when the execution part comes, resources are allocated, money is funded, the programs are funded, the change is being brought up. And in many companies, depending on your size and the project itself that you're undergoing, it can vary from few months to few years long. So, which is a lot of time to put your money and time and effort into it. And hence, we all look forward to the day when we can successfully complete those projects. Yet 70% fail, which is a sad point. Would like to know, a quick poll again, what are your personal experiences about some of the causes? What do you think actually is the reason for these 70% companies to fail? Sadita, can you please open that poll for me? So you have few options. I would love to see, what do you think are the reasons for companies such as 70% that are failing for what?
The poll is on, and one thing I wanted to mention, so even though you feel like there is only one option as a response and you feel like you belong to a couple of those, that is fine. Try to see what was the most impactful reason, and so we can have some sort of Pareto here.
Yeah, and keep in mind that these are not the only reasons why company can fail. These are the most common one, and given that we have a limitation of how many options we can provide you in the poll, we have picked some of the very common reasons.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see how many we have. About 80% voting. We'll close this one and we'll share the results. So the highest one is engagement, no buy-in. Then we have communication issues. We do have resistance at 19%, lack of involvement 14%, 11% is lack of planning. So engagement at 33 and communication 23, kind of overall distribution average, not a high spike on any of them, which was kind of expected.
Yeah, thank you again. Not surprised with the results that and the opinion that you carry. Plannings at times seems to be considered a main cause for failure, yet planning is one of the not the most common or the highest percentage failure cause. It is more starts with as exactly the way you have picked. Engagement and communication are one of the main reason of change failure. And when you're looking at number 3 as resistance, I tend to call that as an outcome of the first two. So when employees are not engaged, your team is not engaged, and communication both sides is not happening properly, it is one of the main reasons to cause people to resist. So they kind of go hand in hand. So these are the main features that we will focus on. I want you to now consider a change in a very positive perspective. Usually, anytime the word change comes in play, people tend to miss a little small heartbeat, and it's considered something scary, something challenging, and something where people can tend to fail. And that's again your mindset. That's how, not saying your team, when people have that kind of a mindset that change is something that's going to be very challenging. It is challenging, not denying that fact at all. But if you focus on why change can be challenging and what are the best models and things we can implement in our process, it can definitely help us reduce the resistance and help us in getting more successful than what the company have been so far. And I've used, if you look at the slide where I'm trying to differentiate between change and transformation, the way I see change is an external process. Change is a result of what happens around you in your industry, around your customers, around your supply chain, around your competition. And hence, your company has to respond to that change. Sorry about that. So change is an external process. We are reacting to all the things that are within or outside our control that pushes us to bring a change. Whereas transformation is what we do internally because of that change. So change is the one that pushes us to make transformation internally in our process, in our structure, in our belief, in our vision, the values, and our people. It is the internal slow planning that is done, things considered from every angle to respond to the external change that is sitting in front of you. So it is the transformation. And if you look at the word transformation, it is not something that can be done overnight. transformation does not happen as soon as you think and plan about bringing a change. It is habits, human behavior, and your processes. And changing those will require very clear communication, both sides, and getting people to buy in, understand it, repetitive trainings to be completed so that they clearly have instructions of what has to be done and why they're doing it. So that's how I want you to carry the difference between change and transformation, and why there is so much need of not just planning, but taking the planning further by considering people factor in front of you and people mindset in front of you. And when you look at mindset, you may have people in front of you, your employee, in your team groups, that are very open to a change coming at them. They're very eager. They would love to be part of that change and be known that they were able to make a difference. But on the other hand, you could have many people, and we do have many people in every company, where people are not willing to make a change. They think it is too much work for them, or they have been doing great in the past with the way things have been done, hence why should they make a change? So they have a lot of questions, and hence the resistance begins from that. If you're looking between change and transformation, it could be because your customer is asking for it. It could be because your competition is getting ahead and you have to stay competitive. And for that, you have to constantly look for positive changes, continuous improvement that can support your business growth and market shares. Organizational level. At that level, it could be your stakeholders that are giving you mandates for the coming time, which requires, again, changes that have to be done. Sales. Could be a sales that is interacting with your customers, and customer are demanding for something different, something new that is going to ease them and have things more cost effective, and hence you have to change. And again, it could be very political and technical sort of changes that you're doing. So change can come in front of you in many form and shapes, and similarly, based on that, the transformation process has to be based after considering why change is being done and what are we going to change. So one of the quote I love, change is the journey outside of us, and transformation is the inner journey we go through it to take on the outer change. Moving on, let's do one last poll, and trust me, this is the last one. Would love to know from the audience, what do you think about resistance? Do you think resistance is healthy or no? Zita, could you please open that
Yes.
poll? Is
We
resistance
started. Interesting. I wasn't expecting these results. That's why we're always here, surprising ourselves. So, is resistance healthy or not? Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds. So we go to the same percentage of participation. Okay, so let's close this one. We have about 80% who voted already. And here we go. So we have 72% that resistance is healthy, 28% that it's not.
amazing? I wish
Interesting,
this
right?
was not a webinar and I was doing it in person. I would have loved to have a great discussion on some of the poll questions we have done so far. But since
We
we're
could
limited
use,
to our technology,
we could use the question box if
I
someone wants to put some comments.
I totally believe that resistance is a very healthy. Resistance is healthy. And if resistance is not happening in your company, I would say there is a problem. Either the employees do not understand the change you're bringing, or
They don't care.
they are scared to, no, they're too scared to speak up that a change is happening. So if people are showing their resistance, means they're reacting to it, and hence it is upon us how to change that resistance very quickly to a positive outcome. So now that you believe it's a positive thing, let's look at the resistance curve that I have. So if you look at the self-esteem versus time, every human being starts with denial. It's like me asking you that, hey, what do you drink every morning? And you say, I drink double coffee in the morning. And I say, what if you're not given any coffee? You'll have to go with tea. And the response and the expression you're going to have is going to start with the denial that, no, I drink coffee and I need my coffee to start my day. A small change in our human behavior, habits, if anybody changes that on us, we show the first sign as denial, disagree. So if a small habit can show that emotion and reaction comes out of your body, why would we think that it is not healthy for resistance to happen in the normal work life when we're bringing many changes in our organization? Now, denial is always a given. And then if you look at the other side of the curve, acceptance and new confidence is what you have to aim for. It's on us, the people that are implementing and initiating the change in your company, how quickly we can take them from denial, anger to acceptance and new confidence. Either if the resistance is not handled properly and the things were not structured and implemented properly, you'll see your employees going through the dip of denial to anger to confusion to depression to crisis. Many times, if things are way out of control, they may not bounce back to the positive side of acceptance and new confidence, and a project could be a complete disaster. Whereas on the other side, it could be at times when you have heard of the projects, a few years ago we did this project and it was 3 year long. Oh my, it was so painful. And it reminds you of the things that went wrong. But in the end, overall, you actually did end up finishing the project and company was able to get what they wanted to get done. But things were very rocky. You may have lost employees. You may have had a lot of disengagement within the company where people are not motivated and not positive. And many times the project may have successfully completed, but may have left a very big sour taste among employees, which the damage could be way longer than you think. The project could have ended good, but it may have left a very negative impact internally. So how do you get from these two situations to a very positive where employees had a quick reaction of denial and then skipped the anger, confusion, depression, crisis, and went straight to acceptance? They have a little bit resistance, but the resistance were taken care of. It was overcome in a very positive fashion, and hence employees very quickly had a shallow dip and moved on to acceptance and new confidence. So this is the mindset we need to carry forward with and find the ways of how we're going to move from this one step to straight to the positive side on our resistance curve. So quick check on the causes of resistance to change. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just assuming that either you already are aware of or you did get time to attend our August or listen to our August webinar. And please, if you still need to take a deep dive into why people resist, I would highly encourage you to listen to our August webinar as well. So some quick checks.
Kiran, before you go on, I just shared the link to our August webinar to everybody, so that way they can have reference.
Okay, thank you. So some of the quick check on the reasons. Threat to power. In a time when you're at your level or at higher level, or even the people that are reporting to you, they have a threat that this change is going to endanger or create hiccups for the positions that are they're holding. And on the other side could be control on your employees. If depending on what sort of culture do you have in your companies, how openly and freely employees are able to approach and reach to your managers and vice versa. And if there is going to be any change in that communication and openness relationship that is between the two levels, they at time will perceive that that is going to happen, and hence they would resist to the change. Benefits, if it is going to any kind of impact on their reputation and how they're seen, their credibility, that is currently the way it is seen in the company, and if there's going to be any kind of scar on that, they will again have a resistance. Reallocation of resources. If a change is going to take away, if you're shrinking teams or taking away some of their budgets, that is again going to take an out as a source of resistance within the employees, because they fail to understand why this is happening to them. Threat to the comfort. At time, not at time, I should say many times, people are very comfortable in their status quo status. They are okay with the way they have been doing things. They are getting pro at that. They know how to do it on a daily basis. So hence the question comes in their mind, why should I change? Why would I spend the time? Depending on their generations as well, it can be, why should I change it now when I've done it same way in the years in the past with no problems? So, and if there is a training going to be attached, if you're doing some sort of an ERP change, which will require them to learn the new system, and a lot of training will have to undergo, and there would be definitely a lot of painful touch points. I don't think so any ERP system can be 100% painless. Lesson learned can just make it easier, but there will be some touch points of pain, and those kind of things again pushes people to back off and not easily adapt the change that is coming towards them. Job security is again another one. Is this change or technology that is coming is going to remove and shrink the number of people that are working, and hence they would take that as a job security issue. Reallocation of their resources, but misunderstand the process. What is the real purpose of this change? What is the purpose of the process that is going through a change? And if they do not understand the basics of that and why it is being done and how it is going to help, very importantly, how it will help them. If they fail to see that clear picture, and the picture is very cloudy for them and not clearly crispy, they will again push back and show signs of resistance. Mistrust, a very common one, which is very undermined, I would say, not openly talked about. People do not like to show the emotion that I have a credibility issue with the person that is leading this project. So if many of you belong to the category of initiator and implementation change agent or change sponsor, highly encourage you to look into your own personality. What skills do you have, and how do people see you? If you think there are certain things which are a bit mismatched between you and the people, that is something you should definitely look into and have that open dialogue with the people that are in your closed network and will be the first helpers, I would say, the change agents and the top team members that will be part of your project. They have to have a full-on trust and belief in your strength, and belief that you're going to make this change happen in a very successful with the minimum pain and damage. And that trust is huge. If in your team that trust does not exist, they will not take the initiative, and usual thoughts that people have at that point is you know what, I don't trust this person. Why would I waste my time and effort in doing something which I feel like is going to be a failure? So many assumptions are made by people at that point that they come to their own conclusion based on those assumptions. And if those are not being handled, tackled, and answered, they will continue to go through the resistance curve deeper towards from denial to crisis mode. And overcoming this is how you're going to skip those dangerous areas and move towards acceptance. Fear, uncertainty, no different than if you don't know where the company is heading and what is this change going to do and why it is going. They have a fear of that uncertainty and not a clear picture of how it is going to look when they look at the end of the tunnel. Habits and experience, at time, people just may have had a very bad experience in the past. Um, uh, think about a past failed project. And if somebody tells you something similar, a similar project is going to happen again, and you're going to be party to that, how would you feel right away? The first thing that comes is it going to be something similar that I experienced the last time? So those past failed experiences will again push people where they are going to be hesitant to take a change. So you have to work on that hesitancy again. Lack of communication, you all kind of numbered that as number 2, a great piece. Communication is a skill that anybody that is part of initiating and implementation process has to have definitely a good handle on your ability to communicate and also your ability to listen. So it goes both ways. The more open you are and are able to consider all the whys and hows and what from your team members and are able to answer those and resolve those, will slowly take a check mark in crossing off all the points that each individual has against the resistance. What is it for me? That is number 1 that everybody has as soon as they hit denial stage 1. I drink coffee, you want me to drink tea. Why should I do it? What am I getting out of it? So answering for such a small thing to all the way when you're making big process changes and structural changes or software changes, it is very important to answer why it is being done and how that particular individual is going to benefit out of it. What is it going to do for them? Until you don't answer that, that person will continue the piece of resistance as you're moving along with them. Timeline, having very unrealistic timelines. You are trying to do a ERP system into a time frame when probably few more 4 projects are undergoing in the company, and the resources are already all taken and allocated. And if you are trying to do another big project at the same time where the timing is completely unrealistic, will indicate the employees around you that there is a high chance of failure in this project. So some of these causes, a quick thing before we move on to how to overcome our resistance, I want you to think. There was, I would say the highest percentage of audience is in number 2, mindset, who will implement the change process. So consider, when a change idea is populated at the point when a company at the top level is considering that, okay, we are going to do such a change, whatever that change is. That could have started a year ago or 2 years ago or 6 months ago, whatever that the starting point was. And depending on the complexity and simplicity of that project, at this point, when you are ready to disclose that a change will be happen to your employees in a town hall meeting or via internal portals and method of communication, consider the mindset you are in as an initiator versus the mindset you are in if you are the implementer. And third is the people that are now going to go through that change will be the direct impact of this change that is being brought up. You have been in this change, thinking about it, doing your research, doing your feasibility studies, looking into left and right from possibilities of what the strength is, what are the possibilities of the project failing, what are the areas of opportunities, what planning you have to do, what resources, people, and everything you have to include. It has been a journey for you for the 6 months to 2 year, whatever the time frame from when the idea was initiated. So by this time, you're disclosing it to your employees and going into the execution piece, you are 100% sold. You know what you are doing. So on the second hand, the people that were chosen, and that is where the people that are going to implement the change process, the people that hold positions like change sponsor, change agent, they are kind of came into the game a little bit later from the initiator, because the initiator did the idea, did the research, kind of looked into it, then handpicked some people who are going to take a lead. So by the time the people that are taking the lead came in picture, a few months later, they're lagging, but they're quickly, by this time, have also adapted that this project is going to be successful and it is for the best of the company and people to execute it. So yes, you're sold to it. You may be a little bit behind than the initiator, but your mindset is almost the same. But do you think it is the same mindset of the person that is just being told this morning that something is going to happen differently in their work? They will have to perform a task with a different method. They'll have to perform a task in a different environment with different people, different resources. No. So all the research and checks and cross-offs you did, this person, each individual that is in the phase 3 who is going to experience this change process, of course will be going through the same thing. Not exactly in the same path and the pattern like you did, but they will have their own whys and questions and would like to know the clarity of what research was done and why it is being done and why they should do it and how they will be impacted, what kind of benefit they are going to get. They will still have those sort of questions that are directly are going to impact them. The first thing that comes to each employee as an individual is me, I, not company, the group. So you have to quickly overcome that me and I piece so that they can quickly transfer to us and company piece. And that is the shift that you as the leaders are responsible to make it happen for all your employees and individuals that are going to go through this experience of change. Okay, moving on, I think we have a clear understanding about why things go wrong and why people resist, and it is very but natural to resist, and we all agree that it is very healthy to have resistance around us. Now we have to look into some pieces of how we can overcome the resistance. And
Kiran, can you hear me?
yeah.
So I wanted the participants to know that they could use a question box, and like we do have still 5 minutes to go over the material, but as I know there is quite some good topic there left still to cover, we could continue, but please feel free to use the question box if you have any points that you'd like us to focus a little bit more, and Kiran can take those and I can kind of introduce them. So just a heads up, and yep, enjoy.
Yeah, thank you, Savita. So, are you changing? As you are now going into an execution plan with your employees, one of the tools that I have utilized over the years and has been very quick and handy and really helps with the engagement and communication piece is doing a small table format with these 4 titles: why, what, who, when. And trust me, this allows you to really communicate the message, the process, and how it is going to be structured. And it allows people on their hand that are on the receiving side of communication to really understand the message you're trying to deliver. So it works great in communication for both ways, and hence really helps with getting them engaged. And the result that we're looking for is that they get a buy-in. You know, the day you're standing at the town hall and you're saying, hey, moving forward, as of November the 1st, the company will be going through an ERP change, and you all will be contacted and made aware of how and what involvement you will have. As soon as that is said, it's like a bombshell for a common man. What? A ERP change? What is wrong with the one we're using? Why do I have to go through change? From everybody around me in my friend circle, my family, and in the past experience, I have seen ERP changes are painful. Why is my company deciding to do that? This is some of the first quick questions that may arise. I'm not saying these are the only ones, but some of the very common ones that people will come up with as soon as they hear the news. So from that, if somebody has asked a question, that you will be notified. Really? By the time you're going to notify, there is going to be a huge rumor board all across the company about what can go wrong, why is my management doing this, what are the problems that are going to come across, and that resistance is slowly building and getting to the worst of the worst. So what we can do at this situation? It's very quickly, when we disclose that a change is going to happen, we are fully prepared with our planning and clearly know how the message is going to be communicated at the right time. Very important. Planning has to be done beforehand. Message has to be communicated at the right time. I always encourage businesses that do not convey the message when you are not 100% ready. Because when the questions come at you, you have to be very confident and know what you're doing and what you're leading. And that little hesitancy or a response such as, we're working on it, we're looking at it, your manager, your supervisor will let you know when time comes. That does not happen. That does not help them. It just makes that resistance go even more challenging. The best we can do is that we are fully prepared when the questions come up at you and the town hall meeting, you're able to answer that yes, a plan is being executed. This is a time frame when your team will be involved in it, and you will get all set of instructions. But you don't have to give those details of execution. What you have to tell them is give them that confidence that you do have a very thoroughly thought through execution plan, and what is going to be the outcome. The clarity of outcome is what they're looking for at that time, and why they have to do it and what they're going to get out of it is what they're looking for. If you can answer these three pieces, why, what is it for me, and what am I going to achieve in the end, that allows them to see very clearly in future exactly how that finished process execution is going to look like, and what exactly are they going to go through in a bigger overview picture, and what is going to be the benefit for them. If they can understand that ERP system is going to save them 20 minutes of time, it is going to save them the repeated information that they are plugging in 3 different places and double dipping those information. And here it will be all consolidated and allow them to see clear graphs and clear information that they have always wanted for. That is what they want. That is the benefit they're going to get. And that is your selling point, to show them that clarity, that if you can get that, how will your day look like? What time saving you are going to have at your desk if this process is executed? And if that is very tempting, then they will be willing to go through the pain and say, you know what, nothing comes for free. To get to that, we will have to go through a rigorous process, which can be painful. It may have its shortcomings, but we'll have to quickly learn out of it and plan the plan B's as needed if plan A is not working. That
Kiran,
confidence. Yeah.
Could you actually, I know you have really some really good examples there on the next slide. Could you go to some details of those so they can have some
Yeah,
example?
I'm actually moving right into that. So, some of once you have kind of done, are you changing of what, why, who, when? What you're trying to do is defining the purpose. What is the purpose of the project you're doing? Who is going to be involved at all levels, and especially depending on the people you're talking to, what it will be their direct and indirect people that they will need. When is it going to happen? Your starting point and your completion piece, and why you're doing it. What is the reason of why this is very important, whether it's the change in the industry, change in the company, why it is happening, and what is going to, where is it going to take them. So that clarity of the purpose of that and the result of that has to be very clear to them. Some of another ways that you can reduce your resistance is, again, I've already touched on how planning is the first beat that has to be done, and then timely communication at the right time, and with the focus that you're trying to do it so that you're getting them to collaborate with you. Listen to their feedback. Depending on the level that you're interacting, it is very important for the next level reporting to you, your direct reports, to be involved in the planning piece. One of the main reason of change failure is when a group in a company decides to make a change and is made responsible, and they go on execution, and then when they go department to department, branch to branch, and the people that are living it every day have a comment that, I wish you had asked me, because I would have given you some good feedback. I would have told you exactly what I'm looking for. That is very important at the planning stage, not at the execution place. So those feedbacks are important, to take those inputs, and then as you're doing executing it, do not look for a year-long, 2-year, 3-year-long project celebrations at the end of the project. The timing is stressful. The steps are all that are part of change management are an extra workload on employees than their own daily routines. So celebrating small wins on small milestone is very critical. So you have a long-term plan of execution, but putting down some milestones every then and after, and when those milestones are achieved, recognizing the people, rewarding the people, and then um, celebrating that is very important to get them going and moving. And once they have those one or two small runs, it gives them that positivity that, okay, I did that, and I am able to achieve this, so I will be able to achieve in the future as well, and kind of moves them to a very positive mindset. Identify your sponsors. Who are the sponsors? And then from sponsors, you have to identify your change agents. It's very important to also identify your key people uh, that believe in the change you are doing, but are also very well respected in the rest of the employees, because they are the one that help you in earning some credibility. A person that is highly respected but is part of the front line, um, and part of the employees that are going to go through change. If you have few people spread out, they will be the leaders in getting those people to change their mind and agree to go through the change in a much more positive way. So that is very important to identify. Another thing that you need to identify is the people that will have a very hardcore resistance. There will always be people, for no reason, their only thing is to resist. You can try whatever, and they will not overcome resistance. And they could be great influencers around people. That means if they don't believe in it, they will spread a very negative energy within your company. It is so very important to identify those, because those are the ones you got to keep very close eye on it, that they're not negatively impacting your change.
So since we have only 5 minutes for Q&A, I would like to tie what's remained with the question. So one of the questions we had is how this be different, or what we'll do differently when we're actually bringing change and working on a project versus just like transformation in general. The timeline there is quite different, or we might have multiple projects at the same time. Any quick input you would have on that regard?
Could you repeat it once more, please?
So one of the question was about change management, but in a project management context, since the timeline there, it's much shorter than just introducing change on an organizational level or transformation, long-term planning, or a program itself. Like a project is much shorter. We could have multiple projects running at the same time. What do you do differently, or which of these points you'd highlight for a project management standpoint?
So when you are working with multiple projects at the same time, irrespective whether they're doing a change, but they're more like project-based, one of the most important thing is, because you have a very given timeline, it is very important to identify the key players. Once you have a plan, which project management will dictate having a thorough plan anyways, and you have gates, it's very important who's leading and who's doing what. Accountability and clarity of people's task is number one. Number two, making sure communication is very clear. You got to make sure each individual, those key stakeholders, understand what they're responsible for and what kind of deadline they have and what they have to achieve. That is very important. And if you're the sponsor who has multiple projects going on, you cannot do all yourself. So you need that key players to whom you're going to delegate those projects and feel as passionate as you do. That is very important. And the last third piece is recognizing them and having your milestone achievement and celebrating that. That is very important.
And I'm glad you mentioned identifying who will be. It's like identifying stakeholders. A quick feedback I would give in here is you want to make sure, especially on a project experience base I've had, you want to make sure that those parties are included at the very beginning. I understand here we're focusing on, especially we had some good poll in the beginning, who's initiating and who's more into just implementing. But remember, those people who will be implementing need to be in the designing phase itself. That way the change will be accepted quicker. And very rightly, we have one of the attendees here trying to compare this with Cotter's model. These are, first of all, these are principles, are not like a model itself. So these are kind of where most of the resistance is coming from. Cotter's model has a really good model there for bringing change and making it stick. But remember, we're going in an agile sort of environment, and not necessarily a change has to stick. So it really, we need to be flexible and careful into what we mean by sustainable change. We're trying to change the mindset of people, so they are accepting change more quickly. And,
one of the message I would would like to share is that some of the models, and given that I have kind of spent a lot of time in studying different models, many of the models that you're seeing around and the companies, if we're seeing the stats today is 70% failure, I'm sure each company had done planning and they had used some or the other model, yet they failed. And one of the reason is because a lot of models are step-based. You do step one and it takes you to step two. You complete that, it takes you to step three, and so on. Whereas the way I see change management is a continuation where you're still finishing step one, yet you have initiated the step two, right? If you look at a project management, you will have gates and you complete gate one and you move into gate two. But that does not mean while we're into gate one, gate two hasn't been taught and initiated. No, you have people working in different spots, and it's a very smooth transition from one to another, and there is overlap, and that is very important. And after that is being considered at the planning end, the other piece why companies fail is not understanding, failure to understand that the change is around people. Yes, you're doing a technological change. Yes, you're doing a process and a structure change, but you're doing it on people. People is the key word, key denominator in all of these. So not putting a lot of attention to them and their needs, and not having them collaborate on a timely fashion, not having them involved in the initial pieces where they can give you their 2 cents of what can be done, and more practical information again leads. And then remember, it's mindset. You as an individual will not jump into something. You need to go through it, understand it before you do it. So is everybody else in your company. So those employees, you have to understand it, and you have to respect that mindset, that it is your responsibility as leaders to change that mindset of coming with questions to an acceptance mode.
And this is a good wrap up, because we do need to close this. And as usual, this is one of those topics that we keep having interest, and maybe we could continue and have another webinar, maybe in a different angle here. I wanted to point out one of the comments remained here, that's about like, again, focusing on people, and how do we, people who have a high resistance to change, and how we manage them. We just mentioned, like, you first need to understand where is this change coming from. It might be from multiple areas, which Kiran extensively exhausted in the webinar, but also you could refer to the webinar, will be recorded, and we'll be also having a presentation shared in a PDF version, so you could take your time and maybe reach her out. She's always willing to comment on these. We spent many of our hours in our free time talking about this topic. It's very interesting because it keeps coming over and over. So we will be sharing that information. Kiran, any last comment you might want to add before I close out?
I think the one comment I would leave with is keeping the two results that came in the poll: engagement and communication. So we are here to talk about overcoming resistance, yet everybody has basically answered themselves. It starts from communicating with a motive that you would have, that your interest is to get people engaged. So if your communication is very open at planning stage, and it is very timely, it would automatically get those people engaged. And if they're engaged, they're not going to resist as much. So if we keep that in mind, and kind of treat other people just like we expect to be treated when there is a change, it would allow us to understand people resistance and how you can tackle it out. I usually, in a thorough, when we have more time, we do a lot of other tables and charts and tools. More than happy to talk about it if anybody wants to reach out. You could do a lot of resistance tests, which allows you to really understand who is of what personality. So it's a personality test, which allows you to, you as the leader, to understand what your personality is, and then understand the personalities of all these people that are around you. What it does is it allows you to see that people that are quickly able to make decisions are drivers, you know, and then you have people that are analytical, that would question and try to go to the deeper extent. And then there are people that express a lot, or they cannot go through change. They are very rigid and more are administrative types. So you have to understand the different personalities, and that again allows you to overcome resistance, because you're more understandable to why they behave like that, and it allows you to take the tools of how to overcome and work around such different personalities that exist in your workplace.
So, Kiran, thank you for closing with this note. And remember, we're talking here about change, and it does feel like change is just like coming from up to in a vertical hierarchy, but it doesn't have to be that way. We have covered many webinars when we talk about cross-functional flat organizations. Our next webinar, I'll be actually talking about agile leadership, and we'll see how could we kind of benefit from agile mindset and principles, and see how do we lead not just people change or anything like that, from a personal level to a workplace environment. We do want to focus that you do need, even if you're leading up, like, and bringing a change up, you do need to make a clear explanation. What are you trying to do? Why is it important? And then have that connection, if Kiran shares the next slides, between what is a personal, individual level value towards organizational value, or upper management sort of strategic alignment. So you do need to find that common understanding. As I mentioned, this webinar will be recorded on YouTube sometime this week. You'll have the video recording. My ASQ community, ASQ HD&L, has now the videos as well as the webinar presentation. So we'll thank you for all your questions that you have raised and comments. Feel free to continue those. Kiran's contact will be shared on the presentation. And thank you, Kiran, for giving that to us so they can continue having any feedback they would like to share. To get automatic notification for future webinars, you can follow us on either on our LinkedIn page, or you can always continue to sign up for our free newsletter, which is in our website. At some point, the website will go down, so we will be available on my ASQ website. We do have a 1-minute survey on a few questions. Those help us out to understand your input and what you'd like to see and how we can improve. It's always about continuous improvement even for us, so feel free to do that. We will share one email as a confirmation, as I mentioned at the beginning, which I'll be sending shortly after the webinar. For those who attended 40 minutes, that email will be used for you as a claim for your credit to ASQ. So just save that as a PDF and you can share that. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to having you. And thank you, Kiran. Our next webinar will be November 5, so we'll have Kiran back. So we'll always be glad to share our insights. Thanks, Kiran. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you everyone for participating. Thanks.